Y'all do that. We'll do a little debrief in a minute. All right, y'all. So here we go. I tried to record the interview best way I could. Y'all give me some tips if you happen to know a good app. I've downloaded 3 or 4 of these Apple apps. I don't know what's up with them, man. These Apple apps, they're supposed to be able to record the conversation or whatever. So I applied for a business system analyst, which is more along with my skill set. You know, as I told y'all, I was weighing some pros and cons, still waiting to hear back more information, on the vendor and whatnot. But I'm not waiting on nobody. I've never been one to do so. So what happened today was I had a conversation with a construction firm, and I will post that information soon, exactly of what I did. So I had an interview with them. It was supposed to be today in the morning. So I found a little duck off. They never called. I waited around about 10 minutes, got up out of there. Commenced to doing my thing. Commenced to work. Apparently, it was an issue with the computer. So the lady texted me like 20 minutes later, like, oh, I had some Windows updates. So I went into that during the interview. Started talking about the Windows 11 and Windows 10 migrations and things of that nature. Now, they're looking for somebody with some project management experience, and they want somebody that's really technical, a lot more technical than what they initially planned for, which is good on my behalf. So I'm going to tell you, so she says, do you have any more time today? I gave her a yes. So I found a spot, took my lunch, went and found a spot as I rightfully and legally could, walked around outside, found a little duck off, started conversating. She called, and I kind of sat there. Like I was telling y'all want to have little interview spots and spots where you could kind of pull to the side and do your thing. Hey, it's your lunch break. It's your legal right to do so. So what I did is she started telling me about the company. Now I use Brother Chat. This is a thing that I should have been doing for the past couple of years and told y'all about, but I wasn't up on it. I guess never processed or thought about it because I'm so old school. I go to the website and I start just putting stuff together. I just really wasn't thinking about it from that standpoint. You know what I'm saying? So what I ended up doing was I said, all right, I grabbed the website and said, hey, break down some interview questions. And I'm going to show y'all the wording so y'all could use it too. Break down some interview questions and some key points. And it printed it out very good. It gave me all the information. I ain't had to look for it, and it was there. Now, remember, I used to do this manually. I would jot down key points. I'd always have, a set of about 5 to, at a maximum, 5 to 8 to 10 questions. And they're very focal questions because people don't have a lot of time. So we start kind of going through some things. She started talking about how, like, I know about Duluth or something about she grew up in Lake Superior. I said, oh, I got married up there. So I start kind of getting, you see, that's how you do those interviews. I start talking about that. Then, little things, interviewers, they like that. They like that personality. They like you to be personable. So getting on the good side. So then she starts talking about the construction, and there was key points that I wanted to ask questions about. She said, I'm just going to introduce myself, and then I'm going to ask some questions to you. They weren't very technical. They were about how you prioritize things and learn new technology, and they want you to give examples and things of that nature. So I told her about my technical training that I did with the community work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my laptop, and I'm going to bring a PowerPoint or get a little cheap USB janky T-Boo projector, and I'm going to bring that on that interview if they give me an on-site interview. I'm going to do something that nobody has never done. Bring some projector and hook it up or some kind of thing. I'm going to do something like that. I'm willing to invest in that because the job is paying. They want to pay anywhere. They said, what's your range at the very end of the interview? I said, anywhere between 90 to 110. She said, okay, that's within our range. So I said, well, what is the pain point? Where do you see the company going in the next 5 to 10 years? She said, we don't know. That's what we need somebody like you for. Bet. Wonderful. You know, that was a good setup question. And I started asking her questions. I don't remember all the questions, but I'll post them. I started asking her questions that I knew she would get stumped with. That's what you want to do. Anytime they say that's a good question, they don't got the answer. That's good. That's a good question you asked them. So, she was, you know, one of the questions I remember asking, you being a mid-sized firm, how are you able to, being a mid-sized firm or being a smaller firm and dealing with mid-sized projects, because they said they got so many projects they can't even take them. I said, how does it work in terms of labor shortages and also labor and not parts, it's supplies. She said during the pandemic they had issues with supplies. That's not an issue no more. The issue right now is labor. Now, she didn't really tell me what exactly labor issue she was having, but I read through the lines. It could be Ice Ice Baby is snatching up the illegal immigrant class. That's what I think it was, as far as the labor. Castle Black folks of the Negro Nights Watch, that's where you come in. She said they're going to have to start training people that don't typically have a degree or have certain things and move them into the pathway. There's still time, y'all. We still got a little time. You could possibly be one of those people. But she was kind of, you know, giving an idea, because I said, I feel silo where I'm at. I got a small scope. She said, you're going to be doing more than one thing if you take this kind of position. And, you know, so I think I'm going to be selected for another round. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm definitely going to go. It had me thinking a little bit, man. The construction, it can be shaky with construction. So that made me, but they've been around a while. But that made me, you know, I was concerned about that. I was very concerned about that when I was thinking about it. Because like I said, you know, construction can be iffy sometimes. You know, banking and medical, that's always going to be here. They're going to need to move some money around. But, you know, I mean, anything right now, man, can be shaky. So, you know, you don't want to be afraid. You know what I'm saying? You just keep your eyes open. So, some other questions I asked was, what, you always want to ask that question. What do you foresee the next 5 to 10 years to be for this company? They're trying to define that. And I start talking about deliverables. See, you use certain terms when you're in certain industries. Deliverables. So now they know that, okay, he's thinking of maybe a project management standpoint, a project management mindset. So the other thing that I asked them was, well, one of the things she asked was something about how do I learn new tools? And I said, I usually just open a device and I just get to using it. And I use the manual as a reference, but I just get to using it. So I started kind of expounding on that. What kind of company culture do you want? So I had to do the song and dance about that, you know, talking about wanting to be in an ego-free environment. What kind of management style do you like? You know, somebody that's open to new things, open to new technologies. I said, I always use the same analogy every single time. I said, you know, when you're in the in the financial industry, they lean more towards what I call the Fred Flintstone as opposed to the George Jetson. You start laughing. I use it every time. I bring up the Game of Thrones analogy. Works every time. You know, a lot of them, they be watching the Game of Thrones. So, you know what I'm saying? I'm able to use those analogies and stuff. I wasn't doing a whole bunch of, I wasn't doing a whole bunch of that. When you start speaking in those terms and you learn how to communicate without pausing, now on here I might do it with y'all, but when you're in front of those professional ordeals and you learn how to speak and pause as opposed to using a lot of uhs and ahs, and people typically do that. And I told her this. I said, I'm okay being in front of a presentation full of people, in front of an audience, not a presentation, an audience of people. So they're looking for somebody that's able to speak well. That's a skill set. That's one thing I could learn when I told y'all about being back in the day when I was working at a company in Burnsville, an IP video surveillance company. The CEO wanted me to do presentations. I didn't want to do it at first. I thought he was picking on me. He says, son, this is a skill that you're going to take with you for the rest of your life. You start getting groups. I said, I don't care if they don't want to be in part of the training or not. A lot of the salespeople and people a lot of those folks, they didn't really want to do it because they'd always say they don't have enough time. They're always trying to sell something. But what I started doing, because it was a Mac shop, I downloaded a bunch of Mac open source applications, and I downloaded it. I found out how they work. I started finding ways that the company could use it efficiently, and I presented it to them. And I said, and that's another thing. That's a good case study that I should use now. I presented them with this option because there's a lot of new technology and a lot of applications they said they were using. So now I had to kind of go back into the DP toolbox, and I had to say, well, damn, this is stuff that I do. See, sometimes you will sell yourself short by not digging into that mental toolbox and putting all those skill sets together. That stuff that they say that looks good on paper, you got to figure out a way to how to convey that. And a lot of times you will forget it, especially if you don't think you've been using it. But you probably have a lot more skill sets and talents than you're willing to believe. So I asked her, I said, what were the deliverables within 60 days, 90 days? She said, well, the first 90 days, you're just going to be learning the lay of the land. That gives you some time. I said, what was one of the, what caught my resume? Now I made a new resume, and I'm going to try to post that. I won't put all my personal details, but I made a rule, my words getting messed up. I made a new resume using Brother Chat. And it looks way better than anything I've ever done. Super way better. So I was kind of working on, remember I told y'all I used to rap and I used to, be trying to make music. Eventually I said, okay, let's just go tech. I'll do more with that. I got some old music that I'm going to post on how I used to, do music. I'm going to post that. This was an album I wanted to put out many years ago, and it was called Hog a Wing, So my homie Type made all the beats and stuff like that. I used Brother Chat to recreate that because the old graphic designers, I'm not in contact with no more. And I didn't feel like going on Upwork. I said, man, I'll do this myself. I use Brother Chat, man. Paid a little $20 subscription and use Brother Chat. I'm telling you, it works wonders. It has saved me at least a couple $100 this week on top of time that I don't have to sit and go to all these different venues and stuff. If I want something real specific and something musical, now I'll go to Upwork, or I'll holler at my homie, or I'll, if I want some specific instrumentation and some horns and some orchestral stuff, then I'll go to that, or I'll go to some open source stuff. But when it comes to just me just putting together a track listing and an album cover and all, man, please, I'm about to use Brother Chat. I'm going to pay that $20. But that got my resume together, and that got the research together so I could sit with my phone, and then I'll send that to my email, and I'll print it out at home if they do an on-site. I told them I will be very flexible for you. Because I had to come to a conclusion about where I want to be and where I'm at. I said, all right, I'm in the process of right now trying to negotiate. I'm trying to negotiate rates. Hell yeah, I should be getting more. I'm cool with what I got, but I should be getting more. But when I put my resume out there and they hit me up, I applied on like the 3rd or whatever the case may be. I said, man, I'm about to see what's going on. That's the nice part. If you're already working, then you have some bargaining, because a lot of times employers, they want to steal you from other employers. It's kind of like what an older cat used to tell me back when I was like 17, 18, 19 or whatever like that. He said, when you go to the mall, you don't go to the mall with no busted. You go to the mall with a badass broad. Yeah. You go somewhere with a bad broad, because other women will see that. Even if y'all ain't just strictly talking but if you just going somewhere, he said, man, you present yourself to the world Other people will see that, they will respect it. Don't nobody want to spend no money with somebody that don't look like they got no money. It's unfortunate. But when you see somebody that ain't got no money or don't look like they got no money, don't nobody want to rock with them because they assume they don't. Unless they see small things about you that states otherwise. They do not want to help you get more money if you don't look like you got some money. And I learned that. And it's almost like how they use taken. Oh, he's taken, so he's valuable. That's how an employer looks at it too. And if you got a janky resume, if you got a janky background, you got a janky job, they ain't looking to upgrade you. I look at this situation as an upgrade for myself. That's how I see it. That's how I see it. So I'll let y'all know more about that. If I go on site, I'm going to try to get that for y'all. And I'll edit it out and I'll give y'all this information. So I'm always be transparent with y'all.